Chairman, I want to thank you and the ranking member for having us here, and I want to thank all three of you for testifying today. I appreciate it. I believe in supply and demand. In fact, I'm a farmer, and whenever there's a drought somewhere in the world, it's good news for me because that reduces supply while the demand stays the same. Mr. Joseph, you said that there were 3.8 million houses too short. And until that comes up, until we fix that supply problem, we're going to see housing prices continue to elevate faster than a lot of other things. So my question to you is, and I know there's a lot of folks out there that are in the private sector that want to do good work and they have money to do good work. What can the federal government do to release those folks who want to invest in housing, to urge them to build more? What is the single most important one? And then if you want to go to some other ones, you can too. Need your mic on, please.
Yes, thank you for this. It's just like being on the calls, right? Good to hit you unmute. Thank you for the questions, and the chairman actually, I think in his introductory remarks, highlighted an even higher figure of underproduction. 3.8 million is really the low end of some of the estimates that we've seen. And how can government help with this underproduction? You know, we highlight, I think the biggest single tool for rental housing is the low-income housing tax credit. And there's been legislation introduced by Senators Cantwell and Senator Young, the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act, which several of you are already co-sponsors of, so we appreciate that. That bill alone could create 1.2 million more units of affordable housing, including many in rural communities. And most notably, there's been a backlog, and a lot of the housing finance agencies they have a lot of shovel-ready projects ready to go. And so an additional infusion of credits could immediately hit the ground running with those. And on the home ownership side, we are also calling for the enactment of the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act. That would create about 500,000 homes in distressed urban and rural communities. And the problem we're trying to attack there is that there is a value gap. The cost of developing or rehab these homes is more than you can sell the home for. And this is a particular problem in, kind of Rust Belt and legacy cities, but also in rural communities where you've had a lot of increase in construction costs. So with the credit there, that's what, to your point, Senator, can really attract new investors because they know they'll be made whole when they make those investments.
Okay, so, and I appreciate that. You also talked about a bill that would incentivize housing built in rural and native communities called the Rural Housing Reform Act. What makes that bill different than the other two you just mentioned so that rural communities could take advantage of it?
So this is more about the preservation of existing housing. So you have the 515 program at USDA, which has mortgages on multifamily properties largely, and you can get some rental assistance through the 521 program for those properties. But when the mortgage matures, you can no longer get 521 rental assistance. So what you see is the risk of these properties like falling out of affordability. So that's what this legislation, that's one of the primary things they would do, would decouple it so you could use the rental assistance on these properties or other properties.
There's been statements made earlier about the federal government can't fix this, and I agree. The federal government can help, and so can state government, local government, and the private sector, absolutely. You've looked around, I'm sure. Are there things that some communities are doing that is unique, that's working?
At the local level, I mean, inclusionary housing has always been a very strong tool to encourage developers as they're doing market rate housing to also include units for affordability. ADUs are, now this is probably more of urban communities, but like smaller dwellings are good. I think in just making sure zoning allows for affordability and density around transit communities, that kind of stuff is, I think, very effective.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, there's not a place I go in Montana, whether it's a very small town or the bigger ones, and our bigger ones are about 100,000, so the small ones are much, much smaller than that there aren't housing challenges. And some of it is no housing available, and others, and you've already addressed both of these, the housing's there, but it's dilapidated. And so we appreciate the testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Tester. Mr. Joseph, your comments have been helpful in this committee, but in this committee we don't use the term Rust Belt. Thought I'd just let you know that.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Rounds.